County Fiscal Court business meeting to order. I appreciate your all's attention and attendance, and I would like to ask you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Let's pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Hamilton, will you call the roll?
Mr. Hostetler.
Present.
Mr. Jones.
Here.
Mr. Wallace.
Here.
Mr. Corman. Present. Mr. Ellison.
Here.
Mr. Pratt.
Here.
Mr. Livingston. Here. Mr. Culbertson.
Here.
Judge Kevington.
Present. Thank you, and we have a quorum. We have 100% attendance, so we can move on and take up business. With that said, number 4 on our agenda was consideration and approval of the previous meeting's minutes as presented. Any questions or comments?
Motion.
Got a motion from Mr. Jones, a second from Kelly Corman. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Number 5, transfers as presented.
Motion.
Motion from
Second.
Rick Hostetler.
Second.
Second from Dwayne Ellison. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. I'm going to try to be right and left-handed tonight. So, with that said, bills and hand checks as presented. Questions, comments?
It's your turn.
Motion from Chad Wallace. Second from Dwayne Ellison. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. And I'm going to ask Jella Broyles to step up number 7 here. We are ratifying some detention center out-of-state training. Any questions or comments related to that? Motion from David, second from Dwayne. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So I am, Jella Broyles wanted to mention another training opportunity that is out of state that's coming up.
Yes.
So I'm going to ask him to go ahead and share that with you all for your consideration and possible approval today.
So it is, and I just found out about it today, and I thought I asked the judge if I could maybe mention it to you all while we're talking about travel and training. It is with our software down at the jail. It's the jail management software. It's Jail Tracker. And they've got, it's a 2 or 3 day conference in Indianapolis at the end of April, the 27th through the 29th or 30th. Myself would be going, and then Captain Zorns from the jail would be going. And essentially this brings us, we go over updates and changes that they've made to the software over the last year or so, and kind of gets us up to speed on it. Yeah, right. It will not be fun. So,
They do dental appointments there too?
right, yes, yeah. Those are in the afternoon.
When is that?
Those are
That is.
That's
Setup.
Did you say?
April 27th, 28th, and I think the 29th.
So we just need to approve
Just travel.
travel and.
Yes, sir.
Motion.
So a motion from Rick, second from David. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So gotten that taken care of.
Thank you.
Next, number 8, detention center draft budget submitted. Just let the record reflect that the Jella Broyles submitted a draft budget prior to April 1st, and that will be part of the budget consideration for FY26.
Yeah.
Can I ask the judge a question? So I want to make sure that I'm clear, that I'm looking at this correctly.
And what are you looking at?
I'm looking at your budget for next year.
Okay.
So you're requesting an additional $150,000 over what your current budget is now for out of county inmates.
Yes, sir.
And so your budget this year was for what?
For $350,000.
it was for 350. I was thinking it was 250, but I could
It was
be wrong.
350.
350,
Okay.
Michelle's nodding her head.
Okay.
And looking at and projecting out from where we were just a few weeks ago, and Michelle's shaking her head back there, and I think you and Michelle talked, that's a ballpark 12-month prediction.
The new one is.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, Jailer, and this is nothing you don't know that we haven't had conversation. That number just really bothers me. I understand the logic about the building a new jail versus jail them out. It just seems like an enormous amount of money from the time you became jailer to where we are now. Because you originally, when you were jailer, it was like $50,000, and now we're at $500,000.
I agree. So our population continues to go up down there. When I started, I remember it getting to 110, 115, the staff being uncomfortable with those numbers. And today, if you figure, and at that time we were housing maybe 2 or 3 outside of the
right.
county. Today, I don't know what our number is today, but it's probably about 110 or 115 in our facility, and probably about 32 or 33 outside of our facility. So our population down there continues to grow, and that's why that part of the budget continues to grow also.
But your employees have continued to grow as well. I mean, you got more staff today than you did originally.
That's correct, yes.
Yeah.
We have 2 additional positions, you're
Yeah.
correct. But even with the additional personnel, quite honestly, the facility, you can only pack so many safely into the facility. And now, have I had it more packed? Yes. Was it not as safe as it is when it's less packed? It was less safe. And so with the option of being able to house these inmates in other counties, we still stay overcrowded. We still stay anywhere from probably 15% to 30 to 40% overcrowded at any given time, and that's with housing these inmates in other counties. But if you combine what we have in the jail with what we have in the other counties, you're looking at close to 150 inmates. And again, my first year, I remember the staff, our numbers got up 110, 115, and they were very uncomfortable with that because that was a number that they were not used to reaching. Now, today, if you combine the 2 numbers, we're looking at 150 or so.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you put it like that, it does make sense that if they were housed in the jail in an 86-bed facility, that, would probably be. And when you look at it like that, I kind of agree with what you're saying. It's our fiduciary duty to, be and try to watch the money. And I know how tight
how tight I am.
I know.
It bothers me also. I'm much more of a buy than a rent kind of person with my own money, with the county's taxpayers. I want to be as responsible with that money, as I know you do too, as we can. I just, when we get our numbers up real high at the jail, it's difficult for the staff to do their job well. We're housing inmates in areas of the jail that are not meant for housing, like hallways or the one programming room that we have that don't have restroom facilities. Some the hallways that we use specifically have drop ceilings, which bring a whole lot of other concerns for us and the safety of the inmates. And so I try to balance and be reasonable. I'm not sending every inmate over number 86 out the door to be housed in another facility. Our numbers, as you know, they go up and down on a daily basis. And so once we get up in the 120s, 130, low 130s, then I'm really getting uncomfortable because I don't want to go over 140 anymore. I think that is a bridge too far for us. So what I have to do is I've got to try to balance. I don't send big wagon trains of inmates out at a time. I try to do it very kind of deliberately, but incrementally. And because I know more than likely our numbers are going to be dropping back down a few days later or a week later.
Right.
So any kind of changes I make, whether it's sending inmates out or bringing them back to our facility, I try to do that in a very incremental kind of way. And the other thing that I try to be cognitive of is these other facilities that are housing for us, it's additional work. Every time we send an inmate to them, booking them in, and getting their property squared away. All of that is additional work. If we sit here and pull the inmates back and forth, A, I don't think that's very fair to that facility, but B, eventually I think we'll burn that bridge.
I understand. It's just stuck out to me, and I just want to go through that methodology about how you were sending them out and kind of where we're at.
Just a comment on
Rob Jones.
on the number. So last month, I think you turned it in as 36 that we had outside of Scott County.
Yes, sir.
If we stay in that 30, so I did 35 times 50. That's over $600,000 a year. So I'm just wondering if I wouldn't be surprised if the 500,000 was over.
And we can, and Darren,
He does a good job.
he's tight,
Yeah.
and he's going to look. But I think what you all are asking is, can we look at other opportunities or facilities that might offer a contract and cheaper
Yes.
at a different rate? So I know you would do that. So I think that's what we need to maybe do in the next month and a half, 2 months, to try to look at opportunities there. So yes, and we can do that. But I want to share with you all, just real numbers. And on March 11th, after our work session, I sent Michael George an email and I said, Michael, can you give me updated numbers if we use $35 million as a number, as a capital number, and bonded it for 25 years? What would be our annual payment? $2.3 million for 25 years. That's $57,500,000 over the life of that principal and interest. I am still working with state and local legislators and our state associations. This is still, funding for jails is still a priority. This year, being a short session and not a budget, it didn't get the bandwidth that it needs. But it is still a KCO priority, and I'm going to continue to work, because I do not believe fundamentally that counties should have the burden, 100% burden of incarcerating, and Darren agrees. I mean, we all agree. But I think we need to look at opportunities. I agree 1,000 times. How do we look and do our duty of trying to be good stewards of tax dollars? But safety has to be a priority too, and we have to balance it. So I will we'll look at opportunities, and we'll get back with you all. I think that's
they
what
did
you
mention that today too, that they're still looking at that too.
Yeah. So
It's
they
a
did
priority.
mention that
It is
today
a priority.
as a priority. But I just, and if you take and our numbers are going to change, but if you take 500,000 over 25 years, that's 12,500,000. And, there's a big difference between that and 57,500,000. So what the answer is long term, I don't know, but I know people, and it is a priority for KCO. It is a priority for judge executives and jailers across the state, and we'll continue to work on that. So, but I do agree. Yes, let's look at opportunities for savings, and I think that's what I'm hearing from you all.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Well, and just one comment, I'm pretty sure we all know it, but even Darren has said it, basically, it's an ebb and a flow, but it's an upward trend on the ebb and flow, because our community's growing, and it's going to continue to grow. So, right?
Right.
Y'all mentioned, and Chad brought up a great point, and probably in your first year or two, those numbers weren't even close, obviously.
Right.
But it has ebbed and flowed ever since.
Yeah, I believe that certainly the jail population is directly or linearly related to our own population. And as our population goes up, the incidence of crime will go up, and the higher rate of incarceration, as far as just straight numbers, will go up. And so as we grow as a community, it's inevitable, I think, that our population, unless statutorily they change something, all things being the same, that our population at the jail is just going to continue to grow.
At some point, Judge, we're going to have to really make a long-term I know we're talking the short term and next budget, but there will be a trigger point at something that will have to, something is going to have to happen. And I don't know what that is, and it's fluid because we don't know what the legislature is going to do. But there will be something at some point in the future, and as long as our population keeps growing.
I agree with the judge. It's waiting on the state is what's taking so long.
But I'm not prepared to make a 25-year investment and commitment that would significantly impact your budget. And I mean, if you have to make a $2.5 million commitment in your budget, that's going to, you know, there's only so much revenue.
How many beds do you anticipate that would, you know?
That was like
300. I think.
300 was a number, but like, let's go down to, I think
Well,
it's.
now, wait a minute. You're just talking about 2.3 million on the bonding. You're not even talking about increased staff.
No, you're 100% correct. And I'll give you an example. Rising Sun, who's helping build the Justice Center. I was in a conversation with their representative that's down there, and they have been involved on building is it the Big Sandy Darren or the Little Sandy?
Big Sandy.
Big Sandy.
Yes,
now that's a federal maximum security. Now that's different. I mean, that's different from a county jail, but it's 300 beds and $100 million federal dollars. That was the number he shared with me. So, you know, I'm using 35 million, and it's a conservative number probably, but
I had some conversations with Darren, and he did make a phone call to a jail that's being built, and they're saying right now it's between 100 and 120,000 a bed. So that you can figure off of that.
yeah. No, and that's a number that's been shared with me as well.
Is there any, you might not know this, maybe this is something we could also work on with our state legislatures. Is there any provisions in state law to keep minimum security people in a lower security facility? So, you know, like out in Arizona and stuff, I know Arizona specifically, they have tents that they can keep people in that aren't jails. And I know that there's a lot. It doesn't have to be tents. Yurts. But I'm just saying, is there any provision in Kentucky where maybe you don't have to have the expense of a jail where you keep these lower inmates with less security, or is there not? I have no idea.
So first of all, the Department of Corrections dictates kind of how we build a jail or how a jail is built and everything basically that goes into a jail. And the Department of Corrections used to allow lower level state inmates, so your Class D inmates is what we call them, Class C inmates, to be housed in a separate part of your facility, and that even included like a separate building, not even attached. It could be an attached area or it could be a unattached area for your state inmates that were level 1, level 2, Class C, Class D inmates. They did away with that provision maybe 3 or 4 years ago. So as of right now, I don't believe, Ryan, that there's any flexibility to house in a less secure area, less violent or more cooperative inmates.
Any other questions?
That'd be something to be nice to maybe look at. So, you know, if we have, I don't know what percentage of the, like, do you have any idea right now? You said 115. How many of those would be those Class 1 or Class 2? Even if you, of the 150, how many would be those low level?
And so the way the state is looking at it, they were just looking purely at state inmates. We have a very low number. I keep our number of state inmates. If you look at other county jails, they have a much higher proportionally part of their population, their jail population is much higher proportionally state inmates than is county inmates. And I'm not saying the majority of it is state inmates. I'm saying you look at us and maybe 15-20% of our inmates end up being state inmates. And again, that's not because I'm going to the state and saying, hey, send us inmates. These state inmates are created organically here in Scott County as they work through the court system. They get reclassified from a county status to a state status. And so I keep our numbers particularly low here with the state inmates. Now we have to have a certain number of state inmates. You might be wondering, well, why not just get rid of them all? It's not quite that easy, but also the programming that we offer down there is tied to the state inmates. The work crew that we send out is tied to the state inmates. And not all of those, say 20 or 25 state inmates that we have today, not all of those qualify for the programs. Not all of them qualify for the work program or educational programs. But when the state had this stipulation, they were just specifically talking about their inmates that they deemed to be lower level, less risk offenders. They were allowing them to be housed in they called them a Class D area, is what they were generally called. And that was kind of a less restrictive kind of area. And again, it could have been attached or it could have been detached from the actual jail itself. But they did away, and I don't know why they did away with that provision maybe 4 years ago, but we don't have any provision for a less violent inmate now.
Do you have a location you'd like to locate this tent city?
I'm not saying 10, I'm just saying less secure. That'd be 10. No.
I will say, if I can just add on to the end, I really think the staff at our facility does a really good job. Their heart is in it. Their heart is in positively impacting the inmates if that's possible. And it's not possible to impact every one of them. But over my tenure, I hesitate to say this, the Herald Leader came out with an article talking about deaths in jails a couple of weeks ago. We, knock on wood, have not had a single death. And deaths naturally occur in jails also. It's not just because of heinous activity, but somebody could have a heart attack or a stroke, or come in and, as you know, come in on drugs and end up overdosing down there. Or it could be due to self-harm or another inmate. We have been very fortunate by the grace of God, but also we have really good staff that do a good job down here. And so I think that's something really to be proud of. But when we look at other facilities, that's why I just don't go to Tom, Dick, or Harry jailer to say, hey, can you house some inmates for us? I'm very particular about where we send our individuals, because I think we have an obligation to make sure that the care and custody that they receive there is as good as it can be. And you all know this, but individual jails across the state, they operate at varying levels of quality. And so anyway, I try to be very particular where we send them.
And the state inspections, reflect, I agree 100%. You've got hardworking folks that care about, it's, you just look at the letter that was shared not too long ago, related to the net device, just about the positive remarks. But, the state inspects jails, and, the safety has to be a priority. But the staff helps make it a safe place.
Yep.
Not just the bricks and mortar and bars.
Yep.
So any other questions? We'll move on. Thank you,
Okay.
Taylor.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
it. Moving on to Board of Adjustment appointment that we shared 2 applications for this Board of Adjustment seat. Channing Meadows was shared, and Richard Dugas. Questions or comments related to those 2 candidates?
Comment on Channing. She serves on the Stamping Ground Board of Adjustments right now, so she's got a little bit of training. So I think this would help her going into it. She's a great researcher, so she's not a pushover. Mr. Dugas, I don't really know him. I met him the other night for the first time. So,
Judge, what is the makeup of the Board of Adjustments currently? Like, how's it set up?
How many
We got
members?
5 people, right?
I think there's 5, and are you asking?
Yeah. So Darren Dillo is coming off. And he was the chairperson.
He was the chair.
Yeah.
So there's 3 females and 1 male.
Okay. And those are Miss Holland, Miss Vogt, Miss Sonia Barrett, and then who was the guy?
Thomas Cooper, if that's accurate.
Tommy Cooper.
Tommy Cooper.
Yeah.
Tommy, yeah.
So I guess, Judge, that I was in my mind that with Mr. Dillo coming off, that I just want to make sure that the board is balanced and that we have a healthy board that and I know Miss Meadows, and I think she would do a good job. I know Mr. Dugas as well.
Yeah, and just looking at resumes, as Rob mentioned, Channing currently does serve on the Stamping Ground Board of Adjustments, worked many years at Southern States. Mr. Dugas has worked in city government and state government, capital construction, real properties branch manager from 2013 to 16, facilities management. So, they both have strengths and both have a lot of good qualifications, and we're blessed to have two qualified applicants.
Exactly. Sometimes it's hard to find people to fill those boards, and that Board of Adjustments is a good board, because it keeps it away from planning and zoning and having to making those decisions, so.
I thought his resume was pretty good. I don't know either one of them, so I don't.
I would recommend Channing, and I would make that motion for Channing.
I'll second it.
All right.
So let me say something, Judge.
Questions or comments?
Yeah, so, and I know Miss Meadows, and I have nothing against her. I want to make sure that this is clear, how I'm going to vote. But I do, I think that it would be beneficial for the court to put Mr. Dugas on, and I just think that, we have to deal, I have to deal with some issues out in the county that are now going in front of Board of Adjustments that we've had to be involved in. We need somebody to be very vocal and authoritative, and
You must not know Miss Meadows very well. That's all I'm going to say.
I just know who she is.
I know her pretty well. She's very vocal.
Yeah, she may give me an earful next time
She
I see her.
probably will. Yes, she probably
But that's okay. But that's how I'm probably going to, that's how I'll vote. It won't be against her, it'll be for Mr. Dugas.
So we have a motion, we have a second. Any other questions or comments?
For balance of,
You say?
It's a motion.
I just said for a healthy balance, is what I said.
Right now.
Yeah. So we have a motion, we have a second. Any other questions or comments? Roll call then.
this is, yes for Channing.
Yes.
Mr. Hostetler?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Wallace?
No.
Mr. Corman?
Yes.
Mr. Ellison?
I'm gonna say no. I mean, I'm kind of voting in the dark a little bit though.
Mr. Pratt?
I'm gonna say, yes.
Mr. Livingston?
No.
Judge Covington?
Yeah, and I really think, is it 4-2?
Is that right?
4-2.
4-3.
4-3.
Kelly voted yes, so it's 4-3. So, like, even either way I vote, we're not going to have. I mean, we have to have 5.
Yeah.
If you vote,
He is the super vote.
I think you trump your vote.
I've never been in this. Why did y'all put
That's
me
the
in this
first
situation?
if you vote no, it just means
Why
no
do you have to
action
have
on
five?
that.
Why do you have to have five? You have to have
You have to have
five?
a majority. If it's 4-4, the motion.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
it's 4-4, it dies.
Yeah.
So,
I got what you're saying now.
So, I mean,
Who would have thought
But
this
then we
would
turn
have been
around.
on an appointment like this?
then we turn around and make another motion.
Yeah.
so I believe the motion dies because of lack of majority.
That's correct.
Is that right, Ken?
Yeah, if it's 4-4 and there's no majority, that's correct.
So the motion dies,
So it's not 4-4 yet, it's 4-3.
but it's
Joe
not going to
Pat-
be able to get to.
Well, if you vote for Channing, that's 5-3. If you vote for Dugas, it's 4-4, then the motion dies, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
So
So
you
go ahead and
got
vote,
to
Derek.
cast that vote
to figure.
one way or other.
Just yes for the matter of it. But I will say that Richard Dugas would be a great
I think
candidate.
both of them would. I met him the other
And-
night, like I said, but I know Channing, and I encouraged her to apply, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll also add, I read both the resumes. I don't know either of them. I would have been fine with
Yeah.
either one. Honestly, I don't.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but there probably is another one coming up soon. isn't there?
Not for a year.
That'd be Miss Janet's spot.
Not for a year.
Yeah, I think so.
And say that person will have to resign from the Stamping Ground Board. of
She'll have to
Adjustments.
resign.
Yeah.
So, and I've spoke to her as I shared in my email, and that was her intent if she was elected. So with that said, then,
So would this Mr. Dugas be eligible for the stamping ground if he was interested?
no, he doesn't live in Stamping Ground.
But you don't have to live in Stamping. You just have to be in the 40379 area code, I think is the way.
I think Channing told me they'd only had one
Yeah, it's
one
not,
meeting, and
they don't have a whole lot of meetings.
Yeah.
So. And they still have 2 currently, so they still have, they only have 3.
but we'll look for other opportunities for Mr. Dugas to serve. With that said, because I think he would be a fine person to have on planning or Board of Adjustments or any other board as well. Fire Department promotion, John Ward and Jeff.
Good evening. Yes, on behalf of Chief Ward, I'm pleased to recommend the promotion of Lou Zender to Battalion Chief. That'll be effective March 29th, which is the start of the next pay period. His new pay rate will be $26.07 per hour. And as you saw in the note, I mean, Lou has 17 years of employment with Scott County. He's been a captain for 2.5 years. When you factor in the additional 3 years he worked for Winchester, he's got over 20 years of experience in the fire service. In addition, he's the longest tenure of any of the individuals currently serving in the captain position with us right now. So I present that recommendation to you for your approval.
Motion. Second. David Livingston. Any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? With that said, there's some additional domino effect of promotions that the court doesn't have to take action on.
No, because they're already on the ranking list. Thanks for
but do you wanna
reminding me
share
of that. Michael Wilson will be moving into the captain position, and Tyler Willems will be serving as a lieutenant as a result of this promotion.
So just to make you all aware of that. And it's, it's opportunities for folks to grow.
And that's great, we promote within, so I think that's the best part.
It's great that we have candidates within that can step up, absolutely.
All right.
Anything else? All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Sport court change order, submitted that earlier this week to you all. I received that, I think, on the 19th. And it was for $6,000. Yes, our contract does have a ROC stipulation in there in section 5 and 6 under customer responsibilities. Pay extra costs associated with foundation excavation in non-standard soils, rock, high water table, collapsing holes, etc., or soils not defined in geotechnical report. I don't believe we specifically did a geotech report down there on these courts. And then number 6, as in that with standard soils that are defined as soils that can be excavated using standard earth augering equipment. They had to get out and drill. There's 6 different holes. They had to drill the equivalent of 10 feet in different holes to get down to the elevation that they needed to, or the level they needed to. What other questions would anyone have?
Judge, how close are they to, because they've already drilled, I'm assuming they've already got the bases poured.
Yeah, they've got it all. They were doing conduit.
I did see an email, so they're digging their conduit. I wonder how far along they are, because they're going to be digging in rock still. I mean, but maybe, obviously not as deep as the pole bases are.
Conduit, but
I just wondering if there's any more coming.
no.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got all the pole bases in.
All the pole bases are done, all the poles are set.
All the poles are
Looks
set.
like the pipe's about done.
Yeah, they were just doing the conduit to connect.
Well, I noticed in the email that if you were talking about
Yeah.
that's what they were doing, which wouldn't be near as deep as the pole
Yeah.
bases.
Yeah, I think Musco's about done, we're about
Yeah.
ready.
And then I've been on
Blacktop.
email with Hinkle. I've been on the email with Hinkle saying, we're very anxious to get this finished. And, they said as soon as weather permits, they're lined up. So we got a motion, second from David Livingston. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Just got some new business that I need to present to you. I emailed out a request that I have, and that was related to an email that I forwarded to you from Andy Johnson. It's a request for me to attend the Bluegrass Regional District of Columbia fly-in July 9th and 10th. And we went up there last year. I thought it was very successful. Good to meet with congressional delegation and Congressman Barr, Senator McConnell. But we also went and met with staff from the White House related to economic development and trying to talk about funding for projects there as well. So this actually recommends coming up the day before, because there might be individual meetings with like Congressman Barr or Senator McConnell or Senator Paul. So I'm really asking for approval for July 8th, 9th, and 10th. And so we have a motion. Second. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And then on April 24th at our 6 o'clock meeting, KYTC will be here to go over the rural secondary funding and flex funding options. And JR and I met with them preliminarily earlier this week on Zoom, and what they are recommending, just to give you all a heads up, and I'll forward an updated sheet to you when I get it, but they're recommending Newtown Pike. It's 3.5 miles, approximately $466,473. Intersection with Coal Ridge Lane. They've got the coordinates there, but I'll share more information. I just wanted to give you a heads up of what was coming. And then I wanted to remind you as well that we had discussed using the flex funds in FY26 for the Lyle Road improvements around the roundabout with the Legacy Trail project. And that would count towards our match. So that's about $152,923 estimated. So that will be what is presented to you all for your consideration. Questions or comments, and anything I can get answered before that meeting.
When you're not on Newtown Pike, you're not talking about 460, correct?
I'm talking about on Newtown Pike proper.
Okay, I understand what you're talking about. I just want to, when the widening comes through, I didn't want us to have to use the money on that and then they repay back over.
So what is planned is a roundabout at the intersection of 460 and Newtown.
Okay.
And this section on Newtown does not include that.
I think it's going toward Lexington.
Right.
It's getting pretty bad up
this section of Newtown does not include that.
Yeah.
So I'll have more information for you. I just wanted to give you a heads up. JR, you have any comments on any of that?
No.
All right.
Any word from the two bridges? Like, or they say when we would.
What a timely question. So JR and I called Commissioner Bobby Joe Lewis earlier in the week. Bobby Joe called me back this afternoon. She asked, give me until the end of next week to be able to tell you when we'll have an answer. She's not going to give me an answer next week. But and I asked her, no, to be fair to her, all I asked was, hey, can you tell us when we will know yay or nay? I didn't want to put pressure on, say, hey, are we going to get this or not? So I just wanted to know for budgeting purposes, because those bridges, they've got to be fixed, and we need to know during our budget process. So we'll have more information. But thank you for that question, because we were knocking on the door. And JR and I have driven out to both sites, looked at those again, and there is no question that they have to be addressed. I mean, there's just no question. I need answers. I need an answer from you all as well. Devin Golden asked me to poll you all about essentially a joint work session for a presentation on the housing needs assessment, either May 1st, which is a Thursday, Wednesday the 7th, or Thursday the 8th. This would be around 4:30 in the afternoon. Any preference or any days there? Could you all look at your calendar and
I'll be out of town on the 1st.
You'll be out of town?
First of your
So the 7th or the 8th?
You said May, didn't you?
May, yes, sir.
Yeah, I'll be out of town.
So 7th or 8th, either one of those, that's a Wednesday or a Thursday. Either one of those preference? Okay, I'll give her the 7th or the 8th and let her choose. And then next Friday, we have
My preference would be the 8th.
Okay, I'll tell her the 8th then. Preference 8th, but if had to, 7th. Is that okay?
I probably won't be here, but
Well, I'll tell her the 8th then. Work session next Friday, 9 a.m. We will have a presentation about Purchase of Development Rights Program. And just wanted to give you a heads up on that coming down the road.
when is that?
Next
Sorry.
Friday.
Next Friday.
Here at what time?
Workshop.
Oh, at our, I thought that was going, yeah, thank you. Well, what I was looking at was, you said May the 8th, which is a Thursday, right?
Yes, sir.
That's a regular day for planning, isn't it? Planning and zoning, is that
We're
right?
going to meet at 4:30.
Okay, well, that'd be just before then. What time do they start?
6.
Oh, I thought it was 5.
6, yeah, they start at 6, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
I'll remind Devin of that thing. So, with that said, I have no other business or new business, and want to wish I don't know what it is, but what the score of the Great Crossing War.
Time it's 34-15.
So, as predicted, the Warhawks are up. Any new business from anybody on the court?
Judge, one thing I asked about the net device was what would happen, I think I copied you on that email as well. What would happen if one person who gets treated and they quit and then they come back, and are they considered one person, or is that considered 2 different uses? And Jeff Lott emailed me back and said if they do it within a 7-day period, then they're considered 1, but after that it's considered 2. So that was a question that
Appreciate that
Rick,
follow-up.
I didn't know. I wanted to make sure you knew that.
Appreciate that follow-up. Any other business? Any new business from anybody with us? All right, would there be motion to adjourn? Second from Kelly Corman. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. We are adjourned.